What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the one and only James Williams, Dog Waters. And before we get to this upload, I want to do a little bit of promotion for you. So now, if you don't know, we have our own website called IamDogWaters.com. IamDogWaters.com. That is our members only website. Go there, click the button in the middle. It'll take you to where you can sign up and you can become a member. Over there, you'll find way more horror stories than you see here. And we're talking about Bigfoot, Dogman, long form content stories. We're talking about hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long pieces of content that you won't find here on YouTube. Here on YouTube, you'll find a bunch of Dogman, a bunch of Bigfoot, but over there, you will find everything. So if you haven't had the opportunity to go there, I want you to go there now. And also, if you don't know right now, there are 4 books out on Amazon. Now, listen to me. The average price of the books on Amazon when it comes to Dogman and Bigfoot is like $4.99. But I'm not greedy. Everything I'm putting out is at $2.99. And if you have Kindle Plus, you can just download them and read them for free. Siege of Locket Ranch is there. Shocking Bigfoot Encounters Part 1 and Part 2 is there. Terror in the Trees is there, which is a book of Bigfoot stories. Terrifying Tales from Native American Reservations is there as well. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is this. I'm busting my behind to make sure that you have access to as much content as you like. And I'm doing it at a very affordable price. Now, if you don't believe me, ask the members of the website who've been members for a long time. They got a price guarantee at $3.99 and a price guarantee at $4.99. Your price is guaranteed to be low when you're with me. And even as I move forward, people will quickly come to understand that everything that I do, I keep you in the forefront of my mind. With that being said, enjoy the upload. In early 2016, my life was taking a turn in the wrong direction. My hours working maintenance on the pipelines had been cut because my boss and I were having issues. Now, those issues directly related to the fact that he was a prick from Atlanta and could not relate to us country boys in Alabama. You know how people are. They can say all kinds of stuff to you. But the minute you defend yourself, they act like children. Things were looking bad until we had this gasoline spill. Department of Transportation got involved, started investigating it. It hits the news. My boss was a frog in a frying pan, and me being one of the best heavy equipment operators he had to call me in. We have a sit down. He says, this spill is all in the news. My boss's bosses are all over their ass, which in turns means my boss is on my ass, and we need to show some major progress. I'm going to need you to work long hours, get retention ponds built. That's our top priority over the next 4 days. He goes on saying the organization is having all kind of problems with these tree huggers and Mother Gaia earth cult people. They're all up our ass. And the shit is rolling downhill. I know you and I have had our differences, but I'm going to need your help. So far, Kevin is the only heavy equipment operator we got out there at the location, and as you know, Kevin can't do anything right. Can I count on you to get this done for me? Understand, this is the same guy who had just recently cut my hours because of something I said. So I wasn't pom-poms in the hand, rah-rah, hoorah about helping him out with a damn thing. So my question to him was very simple. How many hours am I going to be working? And how much overtime are you going to be paying? And his reply was sweet music to my ears. Work as many hours as you humanly can without violating the OSHA rules and regulations. You understand? As for overtime, because this is a disaster that is affecting the entire nation, you're not getting normal overtime, you're getting time and a half. So I need you to get out there and get this work taken care of. Next thing you know, I'm out in the field with the guys. Now, I'm pretty sure you've had gasoline on your fingers after you pumped it and you got into the car. You know how strong that smell of gas is? Well, imagine being around millions of gallons of gas. Take that smell that's on your fingertips and multiply it by 100. That's exactly what we were dealing with. And even outdoors, it made you high as a kite. Understand, this is dangerous work because God forbid there was any type of spark or anything goes down, we got one hell of a fire on our hand. Now let me stop right here for a moment and say, I had never heard of these Dogman creatures before this. However, since these events, I've learned a hell of a lot more about these creatures and how they use pipelines and right-of-ways as corridors for their traveling. So let me tell you what happened. Picture this. My job is to dig multiple retention ponds for these millions gallons of gas to go into. From there, we can treat the gasoline and we can deal with it. It's myself and 6 other guys. I'm in the digger doing my job, but I noticed Kevin walking past the porta potty into the wood line. Stop here again real quick. That same porta potty that he walked past had been mysteriously knocked over a few hours early. We had to go get heavy equipment and lift it back up. So nobody was going to use that porta potty. So I see him headed over into the wood lines to take a leak. Understand, it's dark outside, but we have generators and we have lights. The lights are around the perimeter of the work site, backed up against the edge of the tree line. So when he goes beyond the lights, it's pitch black. Like I said, I noticed him heading that way, but I continue to do my work. A few minutes later, he comes running out of the tree line, stumbling, pants down on his knees. I can't audibly hear what he's saying because I'm locked inside the cab and the engine is running. He runs over to his truck, hops in, cranks it up, and speeds off. Listen to me. Again, I cannot hear what's going on outside. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, he went over to the woods, he had to take a pee, maybe he got to take a shit, so he took off. But that's when I see the look on the other guys' faces. But again, I still can't hear over the sound of the engine and the generator that's going outside. So I turn it off and climb out. That's when you hear this screeching sound coming from the woods that converts into a howl. I mean, like this high-pitched screech that keeps going and then changes pitch completely and ends in a howl. Not a wolf howl, but like a werewolf howl from a freaking movie. It was crazy. We're all standing there like, what the hell is going on? It happens 2 more times and then it stops. A few minutes later, we get together, have a tailgate meeting trying to discuss what the hell happened. Now we're all standing at the tailgate of one truck, cell phone on speaker, calling the guy over and over and over who just left, but it keeps going to his voicemail. Afraid, we all stay together for the next 15 minutes, but nothing else happens, so we go back to work. Listen to me, my hours have been severely cut, so everyone is leaving. It's 5:15 a.m. The next crew comes at 7 a.m., but I need the hour. So I take a break, hop in my truck, and lay the seat back. My plan was to get 3 hours of sleep and then go back to work. So now I'm there all alone in a truck. It's running. I'm sleeping, door locked. Listen to me. I wake up at 6:45 a.m. just scared. I mean, frightened out of my mind, eyes wide open, looking left and right. I wasn't having any nightmares. I wasn't having any dreams. Now, listen to me. I'm not even sure why I even woke up this way. I can't even confirm to you that I heard something or I smelled something or something touched my vehicle. But I just remember waking up deathly afraid. Like everything inside my spirit and my soul was afraid. And again, I'm not one of those people who has dreams or nightmares. When I go to sleep, it's just pure darkness in sleep. And you know how it is when you first wake up from your sleep, you open your eyes. Sometimes you got crust in your eyes, but most of the time your vision is slightly blurred. Well, that didn't happen. I popped straight up, eyes wide open, seeing everything around me. The sun wasn't even all the way up yet, but there was a little bit of light outside. Now it's important that I phrase this to you correctly because, again, I had just woken up out of my sleep. But like I said, I was completely terrified. I believe I saw this wolf walking on 2 legs right next to the porta potty over there by the tree. It walks up to the porta potty, sniffs it, bumps it, stands there for about 30 seconds, then walks into the woods. Now, over the years since this has happened, I've thought about this 1,000 times. I can confirm a couple of things. I didn't hear anything. There was no shaking of my truck. I just woke up with my eyes wide open. Can't explain how that happened. Can't explain why it happened. The only thought I have on it at all, just maybe, what was going on around me at that moment in time was so terrifying, so frightening, that my subconscious mind felt something freaky and weird was going on, triggered my conscious mind, my eyes opened, and I saw it. That's the only thing I can think of. And now I'm pretty sure you're saying to yourself, okay, dude, you guys heard something in the middle of the night, you was brave enough to stay out there, you went to sleep, and then you had a nightmare. That's all it was to it. It's a nightmare. I tried to tell myself the same thing. But here's what you don't know. While I was sitting there, eyes bucked wide open, I saw this thing, bumped the porta potty, walk into the woods. I cracked the window just to make sure I was awake. The smell of gas hit my nose. I remember the smell of the gas. I wasn't asleep. So now I'm driving. I know what I saw was real, but I didn't want to deal with it. Mentally, I didn't want to deal with that kind of shit. You can call it fight or flight. You can call it whatever you want. But I just needed to get away. But what I do know is what I saw was taller than the freaking porta potty. And I just couldn't mentally deal with that. So I decided to go get me something to eat, put some food in my stomach. That's when my boss calls me, asking me where I'm at. I'll tell him I'm getting a bite to eat. He tells me he needs me back at the site because the first guy who left last night had an accident. Truck was run off the road and he hit a tree. Remember, I haven't had any sleep other than the sleep I got in the truck. So I tell my boss, look, I'm going to get some coffee in me, some more food in my system, and I'll get back out there. Now I finish my breakfast, head back over there and get to work. After about 4 or 5 hours pass, my eyes are getting heavy, and it's at the point where it's dangerous for me to be operating any kind of equipment around any human being because I'm falling asleep. So I take a break, head to the truck, try and get some shut-eye. My plan was to sleep until 5 p.m. The night crew came at 6:45 p.m. So let's sleep to 5, get up about 6, the night crew should be there, and I'm back to work. But nope, I oversleep. And my coworker Don knocks on my window at 6:45, waking my ass up, telling me we need to get to work. Listen to this. He and I are standing there outside of my truck talking when the powder potty is knocked over again. But looking in that direction, there was no one anywhere near it. Now the porta potty needs to be picked back up. We get some equipment, lift it up, and I'm back to digging the retention pond. Everything is quiet until 4 a.m. when the power goes out. All the lights go out. And I probably need to be way more specific about what I'm saying. The floodlights around the outskirts of our construction site, right on the edge of the wood line, they go out. But the generator, which was powering those lights, continue to run. Again, let me say this to you, and I want you to think about it because I've thought about it over the years. Again, the floodlights all the way around our job site go out simultaneously, not one by one. But the generator does not stop working. Then I hear this growl. It's louder than a generator outside. It's loud enough for me to hear inside the glass cabin of the piece of equipment that I'm working on. Flashlights come on. I turn the lights on in the cab, spinning it in the direction of the guys. That way we can see what's going on. And that's when I see this thing standing right there, less than 25 feet away from Don. His back is turned to it. It's on 2 legs, I estimate 12 to 13 feet tall. I'm 45 to 50 yards away. You can see its eyes, orange and yellowish. Now I know Don didn't see it, but I guess he felt it because he turns around, looks behind him, drops the flashlight, and starts running. Now let me pause right here in the story and tell you something really important. I can confidently tell you that 2 people saw this thing, Don and Chisholm. Because looking in Chisholm's direction, he is frozen in place with the flashlight pointing to the ground. He stays that way for a solid 10 to 12 seconds and then starts to run. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never in my life seen a man run on his shoulder. But imagine this. He takes off running, trips. He hits the ground. His legs never stop running. So now he's on his side. His shoulder is digging into the ground. His legs are still moving. I don't even remember this man pushing his hands down to the ground to stand back up, but somehow Chisholm got vertical and took off running. Looking back in the direction of this creature, it is standing there in the light, looking at everybody run. It was like it enjoyed the fear. Now, I want to be clear with you. From the point in time from which Chisholm clearly performed some kind of miracle and got back vertical, I was looking at this thing, and it was standing and staring at them running. Didn't take my eyes off of it. And when I tell you that this creature was fast, this thing was fast. You have to understand, I have the equivalent of 2 headlights on the front of my vehicle. It is casting this wide beam of light going far left and far right. Let me tell you something. This thing turns its shoulder slightly, and then it takes off like the freaking Roadrunner. You know how in the cartoon the Roadrunner would plant its feet, dig in, and then take off? Well, that's what it did. You see it shift this weight, leaning back on these freaky, huge dog-looking legs. Then it takes a leaping step. Remember, I have that entire area lit up. Lights from left to right. That leaping step darts it from the center of my lights to the edge of where the light shines. And the next motion it made, I didn't see it. It was just gone. I saw it go from the center of the light, like it skipped over to the far right, and then I just didn't see it anymore. Understand, every man on this job site saw this. And guess what we did? Every man on this job site left. That was 5:15, 5:20 in the morning. My boss is calling me. One of the guys from the other crew that's supposed to work the daytime gets there and finds that no one's there. The generator's running, the lights are off. My boss is fussing at me, and I'm like, listen, boss, you're going to need to get some security out here because we got a problem. He presses me saying, look, what kind of problem you got? What you talking about? And I know it sounds crazy, but I tell him, listen, boss, it's a werewolf. Now, telling him this, I felt absolutely crazy and insane, but the only words to describe what I saw was a freaking werewolf. So I say, boss, we had a werewolf out there. Now, I'm expecting him to be mad, cursing and screaming, get your ass back out there to work, quit fucking playing games. But no, surprised the living hell out of me. He says, okay, no problem. Listen to me. I'm headed that way, but I need you to go back out there and be there with the guy who's currently on the job site. Are you listening to what I'm saying to you? Those words, a werewolf, rolled through my boss's ears with no problem, just like water rolls off a duck's back. So I turn around. I get back to the site. It's me and the other guy there. An hour later, private security pulls up. We talking about dudes in all black, tag vests, sunshades, and rifles. My boss pulls up, asking me to come over to his truck and explain to him what happened. I go through the entire story. He says, so you, Don, Chisholm, and the other guys on the site, all of you guys saw this. And I said, yes, sir, we did. He says, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the rest of the day off, and I want you to meet me in the office with the rest of the guys in the morning. So 8 a.m. the next morning, we're all in his office, and he says, you cannot talk about this. Not that you're crazy, not that you were hallucinating, not that it wasn't real. His exact words are, you cannot talk about this. When one of the guys inquires about why we can't talk about it, he goes on to explain to us that those creatures have been around since the construction of the pipeline, and that our company knows about them. Then he says, I've been in the business for 28 years, and I done seen it all. You have to understand, I have been in your position, guys. I'm telling you how this is handled. If you guys get to talking about what you saw, what you physically saw and experienced, then it's going to make it hard for us to get guys to go out there and work. When it's hard for us to get guys to go out there and do work, then the company takes a loss. When the company starts taking a loss, then guess what? You lose your job because they can't afford to have you. The best thing for us to do, and the thing we've done in the past, is we have a rule. We do not talk about it. Then he opens his drawer and takes out this metal lockbox. Opens up that metal lockbox and pulls out $15,000 cash and starts handing out cash to us like it's freaking Christmas. His exact words, as he handed everybody cash, was, taking this money means you keep your mouth closed. Opening your mouth about this again means that I'm going to have to fire you. I want you guys to go back to work. There will be security. We need to get this job done. So we take the money, go back out, finish the job, and he's right, not a peep out of these things. But get this, as the job is coming to a completion, I'm out on site taking a break. My boss is out there. We hop in this truck. We're sitting there talking. And he tells me again, listen, man, I was once in the field. I was once in your position. There are things that I've seen and heard out here in these woods that not only gave me nightmares, but gave me waking nightmares. My boss shared those stories with me, and I promise I'm going to share them with you. Now, if you recall, my boss told me a bunch of stories about his time on the pipeline, but I wanted to make certain he was alright with me sharing them with you before I started. Like I told you, he and I were not seeing eye to eye before those events that happened. And it's true what they say, when men find things in common, they tend to bond. And he and I have become extremely cool. He's even invited me to his house for dinner, sat on his back porch smoking pipes. So he's actually an extremely entertaining guy. Anyway, we're sitting there on his back porch when he starts to tell me stories. And boy, was this shit wow. First of all, when he got hired on the pipeline, he was a fuck up. According to him, he didn't have any really good training programs, and he fucked up royally. The screw-ups working on construction equipment is what led to him being reassigned to right-of-way acquisition. Now, in order for him to learn that job, he had to shadow this young hotshot consultant. Their job was to cut deals with homeowners for right-of-way. And if the homeowner didn't accept the deal, they were instructed to use eminent domain. He goes on to tell me about this landowner whose house was on the edge of this hollow. And basically that this hollow was so deep that if you wandered off into the trees to the right side of his house, you would fall off a cliff, a 30-foot drop. Now, the two of them are going back and forth visiting his homeowner, trying to buy access to the backside of his property. But he doesn't want them using the best part of his property. He wants them to use the part where the hollow is, which is freaking impossible. Listen, they looked at the maps, they understood the property, they knew everything up front, but they're trying to work a deal with the old man. So the two of them decided they're going to entertain anything that this old man had to say, but they had absolutely no intentions of using the land in the hollow. They go back and forth to his property a couple of times, negotiating, and then the old man asked the two of them to go down into the hollow and check it out. Now, the problem was, in order to get safely down into that hollow, they had to hike 3/4 of a mile around the backside of his property. That was the only way they could then work back in the direction of the house, safely going down into that hollow, eventually ending up at the cliff to the right of the house. My boss says he distinctly remembered asking the consultant, why are we going to go into this hollow? I understand us entertaining the old man and working a deal, but it makes no sense for us to even go down there. And that's when the consultant tears into his ass, explaining to him the art of making a deal. Tells him, listen, if this fucking old man wants us to go to the moon with him, we're going to go to the freaking moon to get this deal done. And if all we need to do to satisfy him is to carry him down into this hollow, because all he wants us to do is escort him down there, that's what the fuck we're going to do. And when we come out, we're going to get the deal done. So the three of them head down into the hollow, the old man carrying a rifle. Now, when they get there, it's trees cut down, and you can tell these trees have been cut less than 2 years ago. The old man tells them that he had a crew go down there and cut the trees. When they asked him why, he says because it keeps everything at bay. Going on, the man explained that a little bit of everything transversed through this hollow. He went on to say it's kind of like a superhighway during certain times of the year. So they continue to work their way down into that hollow and eventually end up at the rock cliff right next to his house. And my boss tells me, right there on that rock cliff, you see these claw marks all over the rocks, all over the trees. And while they're standing there looking at the claw marks, the old man is rooting around, kicking leaves, looking for something on the ground. And when the two of them inquire as to what the hell could leave these kind of marks, the old man tells them don't worry about it, it's old news, and continues to search through the leaves. My boss goes on to describe these marks even more, saying he held his right hand up against the rocks, and the claw marks were as long as 2.5 of his middle fingers. Now get this, the three of them spend hours down in that hollow, the old man kicking leaves, clearing branches, searching frantically for something. A few hours before sundown, the old man comes across this old metal box. He opens it up, and inside are photos of him and his wife, his grandchildren, a necklace and a keychain full of keys. He picks the box up, looks them dead in their eyes, and says, okay guys, well, it's time for us to start working our way back. When they get back to the house, the two of them are able to work out a deal for the section of land that they wanted. But the old man tells them this: they can lease the land, but they can't do construction on it in the month of September. And he went on to say that September was the end of the migration, and that the large walkers, as he called them, will be moving through and around his property. He went on to say that during September, the company was not allowed to access his property, as he and his wife would spend the last week of August through the first week of October in Florida with his son. The two of them agree, add the stipulation into the contract, but later the company's attorneys add clauses to the contract that will work around his stipulations. But nonetheless, they do the deal. Fast forward, it's time for them to clear the right of way, and yes, they start clearing in the third week of August. True to his word, the old man is gone, the property is locked down, so they create their own access point to the land, laying a culvert, clearing trees, getting to work. And the crews are able to work for 7 days with no problem. Then it starts to rain, and they gotta hold off. When they come back to the site, they find these gigantic footprints. These huge canine prints with 6 to 8 inch claws on the feet. Now, the local guys from the area said it was a bad idea to keep clearing the land, and they were so afraid after seeing the prints that they refused to do any work on the site. So the company brought in outside contractors to do the work. Those contractors are out there working for 3 days when one of them goes missing. They find this guy 2 days later, 100 feet up into a tree, babbling and talking crazy gibberish out of his mind. Listen, when they get him down and start talking to him, he says that the giant wolves herded him away from the job site, and all he could do, and the only way out for him, was to start climbing a tree. So he just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And on his way up, one of the tree limbs snapped and broke, leaving him stranded up there in a tree. That incident with the worker happened the last week of September. After that, things calmed down. So now the crew is back out there getting to work. It's the end of the first week of October when the old man comes out shooting at them, pissed off. And listen to me, this old man was so angry, the sheriff was called in because he was actually trying to kill them. And when the situation is finally able to calm down, he tells the sheriff, carry your ass down to my house and see what they have done. So the sheriff puts the man in handcuffs. They all head on down to his house, and when they get there, there's a hole in the side of this man's house where the walls were literally torn off. Siding gone, plywood gone, insulation everywhere, house ransacked. His deep freezer is outside, his deer meat and hog meat gone. His wife is in tears. My boss went on to tell me that that's when he realized that there were things in these woods more dangerous than you could ever imagine. However, when he told me the story about the day he saw one for himself with his own 2 eyes, it was absolutely terrifying. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the one and only James Williams, Dog Waters. Real quick advertisement. I need you guys to head on over to erieexpeditions.com. I put the link down in the description for you. erieexpeditions.com. You're going to want to put your email there so you can reserve a seat for what's coming down the pipeline. Live streaming investigations from some of the most wildest places, both known and unknown. erieexpeditions.com. Come explore with us.